Good to see you as well, sister. How are you?
Hey, it's a good Thursday when we're together. Those of you who are joining us live, I'm Sarita. I'm the better half of this sibling duo because today I am officially my brother, Xavier Amasi, who's joining me, his Irish twin. So, how you doing, twin?
Hey, happy birthday. Happy April Fool's birthday.
I know it makes
Hey,
it.
you're an April Fool's baby, ain't you?
I'm an April Fool's baby. This time of year always makes me happy because we are the same age. So technically speaking, I you can't boss me around. You can't tell me what to do. You can't do any of those annoying older sibling things that older siblings try to do.
Hey, I was wondering like what kind of imprint it left on you to be the baby of the family in the sense of being having two other older siblings. Because from my perspective, I don't think we treated you like that. I mean, maybe Levine is a little bit bossy, definitely. Levine is a little bit bossy and controlling.
You don't count yourself amongst the bar. I
I
would say
don't
this.
count myself amongst that.
You don't count yourself amongst that. No, I will say this: being the youngest, there are lots of benefits. There's actually more benefits than there are negatives. So I'm going to start with the benefits of being the last in the birth order.
Right.
So the benefit is that your parents are tired, right? So I so by the time you all had done all your touching of the outlets and pulling the sheets off the bed and doing all those other annoying things, as the time I came up, I could do some of those things and with some straight impunity, not get any not get much discipline. Now,
The baby is always favored. The baby always is, and I think this isn't just applicable to you. It's just once again, it's a very general thing, right? Because we got to speak in terms of generalized senses, right? But the baby always is given lots of love. It's always thought of as this is the last one, so this baby wants to sleep in the bed a little longer than other babies or whatever. We gonna let that happen because we ain't gonna be doing this again. You know,
well, there's some other benefits. So, like I had access to you all's toys, and sometimes your toys were better. So, I think I enjoy where I am in the position,
Mhm.
and especially today for those who are joining us in this, my birthday, time of year where we this is unique. Like most siblings who are not twins don't get an opportunity to share birth ages except
Right,
uh,
right.
what this means is our parents didn't wait their 6 weeks,
I know they didn't. No, they did not.
not wait the requisite time period to start to re-engage their marital relations. And by the time mom went for her 6 week checkup, surprise, she had me. So we overlap, and for this whole month and 9 days, I get to happily say that I am your twin. So, and it's cool being your twin because you were kind of a cool uh, uh, brother. You were always smart. I knew that. You helped me out a lot. You never told me no too much. So I would say you were probably the kinder of the sibling dyad that I had. I think the only thing I didn't like though, when you started turning like more of a teenager, you wouldn't allow me to like go with you as much, and you kept a lot of
You're a
secrets.
girl though. You couldn't do a lot of the things that I was doing at the time. It's funny. I was thinking that I had an experience back then when I found myself in another pile of trouble or whatnot. And my best friend's uh, mom Dukes came to see me, and she just thanked me for any time that I got into something that I did it on my own. So she was like, I really appreciate you not bringing my son down, into these things when you falling. So same thing applies to you. Like anytime I was doing something, I guess at those times I couldn't take a little sister with me. You know what I mean?
Because you was walking,
Sometimes
you
you
was
want to be
walking line.
yeah. Yeah.
You
It's funny because I heard this lady tell me, she said that, when she was a little girl, she used to be, couldn't do anything. Like basically, she couldn't be out the line of sight of her parents. But
right.
her brothers, they could go anywhere. You know, they could be down the block, down the street, doing all this stuff. And she said she used to just be so jealous of the freedom that they had as males, right? That she felt like she didn't as a female. But then I was telling her that, I mean, it seems sometimes things that seemingly look, all shiny and all that stuff aren't really, because down the street and down the block, it's trouble out there. So these boys, they probably getting into this stuff and they probably lucky to get back,
Right,
back
right.
home and stuff. Whereas you're in front of a place where you're getting protected, monitored and protected, which is really a better outcome, to be
Which is
true.
a better, but think about you. You're saying all of that with all of our elevated middle-aged wisdom. You asked me to go back to my childhood. I'm taking you back to my childhood, and it certainly did look fun. And I remember, I think, uh, thinking about this experience, even though it's so wonderful to be in this birthday kind of period. But you asked me, the baby always gets all the attention. The baby also gets brutalized because I don't know if you remember this, but you and the oldest tied me up one time and put me in a dark closet for
But
several.
I don't think that was anything due to you being a baby, though. I think that might have been, you know, because I think at the time, I remember correctly on that situation. I might have to ask, our other sibling on this. I think that was retribution
It
due
doesn't. It doesn't. It does not matter. I just want you to know how rotten you all were as siblings. You rotten, you rotten ones put me in a dark closet for many hours. I can't tell you how long, and I may have had to go to the bathroom, but it was quite an ordeal. So I
Well,
have not forgiven
you
you.
learn not to tell on nobody after that, right? Hey, that's retribution right there.
Well,
But nobody go. But it's funny, right? Because when you think about incidents like that, right? Say thing. Because I always wonder when someone brings up something and those types of things, they kind of burn into your memories, right? They got like imprints. But you would ask someone like, if your siblings are like that, how many times did that happen? You know, so that only was a one time thing, which means that had to happen due to something. Right? You know what I mean? Somebody provoked that.
what I see coming from you is the justification for the error and the wrong. But what I will tell you is that it did imprint on me. But because I am so loving and forgiving, and as roses breadcrumbs should be, um, I have not held that against you. I do want to give you a character logical analysis real quick because what you just invited me to was your justification for the harm that you gave.
No, what I'm saying is don't victim stance. Own that. Like, look, I told on my older siblings, and my punishment for telling was that they tied me up and put me in this closet. And I didn't like it. But like most people don't like the punishments that they get. Most people don't like it. But now, was it justified? That was the question.
I don't know, but even from the smile that you have on your face describing your retribution, I have enough evidence now to understand that there you go, characterologically justifying behavior that was harmful to me. And I'm going to always defend the harm and let you know that I was harmed indeed. But because forgiveness is real, it's an action where I'm gonna be a demonstrator of forgiveness today.
So
So
benevolent.
um,
you
I, I love it.
you will be the benevolent one.
I'm gonna be the benevolent one. And listen, so what I'm understanding through this exchange is as much as I've learned from you and my other sister as the oldest, widest example, you now have some good references for me that you can look down into on today, since we are indeed twins, you can see how I'm the better half of that of that.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I would say that definitely you are the female. component of that. Now, I don't know which one, where that falls in the yin and yang. You know, I don't know which one is yin and yang.
Well, I know where I am. I know. I know. This without question, because I never been in no dark holes like you was describing a couple weeks ago in the same way. So I know where I fall, but you might still be wondering. But go ahead.
No, I mean, I don't know where you fall in the yin and yang. Like where, you know, they say yin energy, yang energy. I forget which one is which one has which vibration. And maybe it don't even matter because they really like reflections of each other in a certain kind of a way. Correct.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but I definitely uh, with full veracity reject justification. I'm just telling the story how it is. You know, this week I was telling a person this concept of two universes, right?
Mm.
And you know, it's funny because it's always disturbed me when people say it's my story, her story, and then somewhere is the truth. Like I always find that to be uh, logically unsettling
Mm-hmm.
because the truth is absolute and it's universal. So there's only one truth. You know, there's no his story, her story, and the truth. You know, it's what is the truth, right? So to me, I like it when both sides line up. You know, have you ever seen those documentaries where they're telling the story and it's multiple parties involved in the story,
Right.
and you might be switching back and forth in the video feedback on who's telling a portion of the story, right? But everything is aligning. Like they'll be like, "Yeah, when that door kicked open, you know, I was over here, and then I jumped out the window and all this stuff." And then they switch to somebody else, and they be like, "Yeah, I heard the door kicked open. I looked over, and I saw Sarita jump out the window." But the whole thing is aligning. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
I don't like it when the story is like, okay, this happened, and that, you know, we walked into a room and the elephant is there. I'm like, there wasn't no elephant in that room. What are you talking about? So now, right off the break, you got to just scrub the story like something. The whole story is false, you know. But there's
Right.
a concept of two worlds, right? It's a world sometimes that people are speaking and thinking, and then there's a world that they're creating through their actions, right? And also sometimes those things don't align, right? You know, somebody tell you they're gonna do something, you know, it's like that trust story, right? You know that trust exercise where
Which
people
one?
someone might say, stand up on this ledge, and this group of people are gonna clasp their hands and just fall backwards and trust that these people gonna catch you, right?
Right. Right.
You know, so it's a little trust exercise, right, to see if people catch you. But I say in this real life trust exercise, someone might say something like, "I'm going to be there. Jump. I'll catch you." And you say, "All right." Their mouth said they're going to catch me, right? So
Right.
I jumped off and I hit the ground. I say, "What happened?" I thought you said you were going to catch me. So now the actions and the words don't align, and it created a fracture in these two universes. Concept of two universes.
Right.
Now it makes it to me. It makes it to where you can't trust the individual, right? You know, you got to scrap. You got to scrap the whole story. You know, it's wild. This is wild how things are like.
Well,
You
well, I
know,
have to say that I think I need some more background details about what brought you to two universes, but I do get the concepts of that what you're trying to say, and it actually brings us to a good place where we really wanted to kind of chat today, which is um, we got that Kanye West clip that you sent me,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it opened a lot of moments of dialogue for me. So what we're going to talk about today, for those of us just joining us, is really about like how we manifest pain and how we show up in pain, and what that looks like. So as a moment of background for everyone, I am again Sarita. I'm the better half of this Iris Twindom. I'm the sibling pair, but I'm joined with my brother Xadian, who we share not just a sibling bond, but we share a lot of the same types of, I would say, integrities, like principles that guide our lives.
mhm,
So, my brother shared earlier this week with me a clip of Kanye West being interviewed, and there's a hood. He's in this uh, donned is what I would say would be very similar to a KKK's hood, but it was all black. Um, you recognize it was him by his voice, but you really didn't see. I don't think you saw him positioning the hood on his head. We just see somebody show up and there's a hood. Um, and so he's talking about his experience. And the first thing I did after I listened to this, I don't know, what was it, over 45 minutes
Yeah, yeah,
of,
roughly.
of what I called mental illness. I said that was mental illness at play. And the other half of my sibling pair said no, that was emotional expression and sadness. So then I re-listened to the interview with that lens. So I think what you shared with the example that started this new introduction segment was we can be having experiences, a shared experience, and you can come at it from two different perspectives. So the person that just saw me jumping out the window in your story didn't mean that there may not have been a yellow elephant in her room, right? But the perspective that you saw, you didn't see the vantage point or the perspective of the elephant in the living room. And so what you helped me do with by saying that was pain was I had to go back to listen to the story, to listen.
Still, people,
I like talking to you every week. Don't they know it's our time?
they shouldn't do, but it's like people, it's
You
them,
got yourself
right?
on busy
Yeah, I put myself on do not disturb, and they still call.
every week. So I bring that up because I want to do an analysis of what I saw. And you weren't necessarily wrong. So I give you credit for recognizing pain. I'm curious though, how did you see the pain before
Well,
I, because I didn't see pain in that.
well,
Um,
first of all, let's talk. Let's take it from the top, right?
yeah.
Because you know, Kanye is an artist to begin with, right? So a lot of the things that he's doing and the way he's expressing himself is through symbolism, right? So
Mhm.
but then he also mentioned that sometimes this symbolism is coming to him through, um, just in the moment, like he's just what he say, he's channeling God energy from the perspective. But let's just start from the top with it, right?
Mhm.
He had on what he calls the black KKK outfit, right?
Mhm.
So it's exactly like a traditional Ku Klux Klan outfit, except it's all black instead of the white and the other colors that they usually use, right?
Mhm.
And then he also had on a iced out swastika, right?
Mhm.
And in this, Kanye is beyond canceled by what he considers the antagonist and opposition as the Jewish folks that are running the music industry and the other industries that artists and performers are in, like him. So that's why he's rocking that, because he knows that he's saying that they are exploiting black people's pain through using artists to proliferate it, to basically glorify, black pain.
Mhm.
And so he says, when I wear a symbol that illustrates your pain, you counsel me. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that was the whole purpose of why he's doing that. Number one.
Mhm.
Secondly, so that was one part of it. Then the
So
second,
let me ask you this question.
yeah,
Uh, so I didn't necessarily connect to that as pain. I actually connected to that as anger.
yeah,
And
that is anger.
and
Yep,
anger could
exactly.
be parts of similar feeling experiences, right? But one thing I've always appreciated, or I think I thought I appreciated about what Kanye represented, was freedom. And
Hmm.
so, in that analysis that you just provided, it sounded like there was at some point in his own understanding where he didn't feel as free and he felt exploited and acted upon instead of acting on. And so, if indeed that was so, then the question has to become, and this is a question maybe even broader for Black people, is how do we give away that experience and opportunity so we can take that back? And again, I didn't necessarily see that as pain, so it's interesting to me that you can. I saw that as anger. I saw that,
So
which I
what
think
anger come from? Like, when you break down anger, right? Like
Mhm,
I guess the motivating factors, the sources of anger, right?
mhm.
Could be. I mean, to me, anger is an emotion, and it's a thing that I guess you could decide. Like I could be angry. Like going back to that situation that you were saying with the road rage incident.
Mhm, mhm,
Somebody could cut me off, right?
mhm.
And them cutting me off, I could feel pain for some reason, like just an affront or a slight to my ego and pride. I feel it as pain, and it manifests as anger, you know. But definitely, he had a lot of emotions in that 45-minute interview he was giving.
Absolutely. It was
Yes,
a range of emotions we saw, and some of
it's
them were
huge.
indeed irrational. And so
Well,
what
I don't think so. Like I think like all of those things were coming from rational places. Like you could,
but
he was trying to explain it.
irrationality comes from a rational place. So like, but some of it was indeed irrational. So
Like,
like, for example,
mhm,
when there was a discussion about um and why I say irrational, I'm really connecting it to the principle of control, okay?
okay,
And
okay,
what you can control and how you can connect it. And
okay,
so in the statement where and there were a lot of loose statements about his relationship with Kim, but
okay.
there was one time where he said, uh, I knew I shouldn't have was having buyer remorse before I even had a baby with her. But people, these like magical people, wouldn't let me. And I'm thinking, like, wouldn't let you do what? Like who was holding you back from that experience where you chose to have not just one child, multiple children with this woman who herself, why she became even anything relevant was
Right.
she was someone who was exploited in my view.
But he said by her mom, because he said the
Well,
mom is the one
I
that put
hear that,
that.
but even before that, maybe
Yeah.
by her mother, but I'm saying from a basic thing, how we even know about this girl, or how Sarita know, maybe y'all knew her different, is that she was a girl who was urinated on by somebody who was having sex with her. So
All that. That's a new piece of information for me.
that
I just,
can't
I just knew that she was the daughter of one of the lawyers that represented O.J. Simpson.
that was secondary to how she became like people wanted to know her. She had that Ray J thing where
Yeah,
she got
yeah, but I didn't know Ray J urinated on her. That's some new stuff for me. I never see that
see this
part.
is why I can't trust your eyes.
I just knew that there was some. I never did see the tape though. In all fairness, but
But
I just heard
you
about it.
hear the story, okay? So and let's just say maybe she didn't get peed on. Maybe she was had.
But
The fact of the matter is, you heard the story that what
that's
brought her to
true.
prominence and relevance
That's
was
true.
she was someone who was in some way view. And as a woman, it's troubling for me that
Mhm.
you just got to have publicly be kind of humiliated and everybody see you have sex, and then you can be adorned as a sexual object, and all of a sudden you in everybody's rap songs, so which again, if that's being exploited, we do have choice, because I remember growing up in listening to rap, because again, listening to rap was kind of new to us. We lived in the country, so coming to here and listening to rap, there were people who were not talking about all that violent types of forms of rap that were very entertaining. I listened to them and I loved what they said. It was black people also who decided that's how you want to be represented and that's how you want to exploit. You get a choice in this.
Well,
And he
it's
therefore
just
had a
like the movies, though. I mean, I do agree with you that you get a choice in doing this, right? But let's be honest, right? In this, that if a person is trying to create an opportunity for themselves, right?
Mhm.
They got to step and fetch, to be real, right?
Initially, perhaps.
Yeah, they're going to step and fetch. You know what I'm saying? Just like right now, everybody in the black community believes that the only way to make it out of the hood or out of certain sort of conditions is only a couple of ways, right? Is either being a athlete or being an artist or being a criminal, right? Those are three main ways.
Those are the dominant things that are
Those are,
celebrated.
Right. So that's but those are the ways that the people control, the gatekeepers of the the supposed gatekeepers promote this. That's what they were even saying, that the new Captain America actor was saying that there is no like hard work and recognition in entertainment. You're literally made, and you're made because people sponsor you and they bring you in, and you willing to play the game, and they will get behind you. Once they get that way behind you, they build you. They built you up, right?
Mhm,
So you literally are made, and it's basically who they're picking at this time to make them. You know,
mhm,
so I
mhm.
would say that that's why, like right now, the cream of the crop for Black people that represent Black people are always the top, basketball player or football player. For our community, you could scrap every other sport because the only ones that's really representing us is football players and basketball players, and then artists, singers, hip hop artists, all of that stuff. But then you don't really get the people like you and me who are also successful in our own right. You know what I mean? That
Mhm.
have come from those origins or whatnot. And then we are also an anomaly, I would say, in a sense, because we definitely are, on the top of end through real hard bootstrap work, right? But nobody really glorifies that path, right? Because that's more of what people consider like the Cosby Show narrative path, even though we have elements of the other underlying piece in it. But there were two main things that are affecting Kanye, right? That I would say are very serious things for a man's life, right? So the number one thing is the cancel culture uh, impact on his pockets, on his finances, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Then the fact when he's bringing up the relationship he had with this girl, that it impacts his kids, like you bring where
I
he,
saw that,
yeah,
but
so so
I'm taking you back for a second because
yeah,
we're almost there, but I'm gonna just take you back for a second.
yeah, yeah,
This is a choice
true. And that interview mentioned it. The
man
interview
made.
mentioned
Okay, so I'm telling you, I get a choice between, I don't know,
true, he did.
the man who peed on someone and got famous, or I get a choice between the person who worked like you didn't pee on nobody. I don't know if you look good in bed or you don't. Um, I do get to then choose, and let's just say I choose the man that peed on somebody, and y'all know his junk is the biggest junk of the world, and then every woman's trying to sleep with my man. I don't then get to say, because this is the only point I want you to agree with me on today, that I have been manipulated, acted upon, and didn't get to act in my own free will when I then decided to pick that person to have children with, to be able to create a family and a business
I
with,
got
right? Because we another day we're gonna talk about, do you who you gotta be careful who you create business with.
I
So
totally
he created business with her, okay, by having this mess all on the, he was already an artist, so he took advantage of the art stuff. You create a business with that, and then it goes south because I mean, I don't know this person to be of a value. Like again, how was introduced to her would be like being introduced to a porn star. Hey, you saw that porn star with the dingaling that's so big? That's exactly the same
what
kind.
you talking about? What are you talking about?
I'm just saying
You
that
got to
would be.
clean this up.
I'm saying that would be the exact same way that the person he chose to be his spouse and breeder, it was just like someone saying, "Did you meet that porn star with the big dingling?" He has to take accountability for that,
I
and
agree with you on
and
that one.
accountability is healing. I just want people to know accountability is not a bad word. It is
But,
indeed
but
healing.
the human consciousness has a hard time with accountability, though. And I think even
Where's human
even,
consciousness?
even, even we show it in our discussions, right? Because let's just say when we go back to the way this started today, we're acknowledging that right now we the same age because we Irish twins based on the action of our parents and everything. But then you mentioned, how it was for you being the youngest, and one of the only stories that you brought up was of being chastised by your older siblings for
Harm.
something you did. Right? You told on, but you violated the sibling code by telling, right? So you did some snitch behavior, right? And then you got dealt with, right? And you didn't like it, but then you say, one of the perpetrators of this justice, right? Is justifying, what they did. So even in that, it's hard for a person to be like, yeah, I did tell, and I did do this, and my siblings did this to me, but they never ever did this to me before nor after, because we never had this problem again. But that,
ladies and gentlemen, this is the problem with accountability. An accountable sibling who had time to reflect would have said, I caused you harm. It's the same thing. So what you're doing now is really a good illustration for the people of just how difficult. I think you're doing your own example.
I think we both are. We both are showing it.
When you make mistakes,
people can draw their own conclusion. Because what I'm saying is, I agree that maybe I'm not denying this happened or anything. I'm just saying there was a reason.
But
and I say I'm sorry for that reason, because I do believe under my belief system of where I raised, siblings should not tell on each other. People should not tell on each other. So if a person steps outside of that line, whatever retribution happens to them, within reason, I think the punishment should match the crime. What I'm saying? Within reason, something got to happen. Something
this is the irrational rationality of your experience. And what I'm trying to tell you, because on so many levels we match, and our principles and our value systems match. But see, I'm seeing that you are more aligned with the Black Ku Klux Klansman in this story. And which is why I really struggled when you sent me the video. I really struggled to figure out pain, right? But it's going to bring us to an interesting discussion, because I think pain can be real, but I think the process of healing is one. Fine, I'm going to give you everything that you just said, right? That your system of justice and his system of justice is to do it in these performative ways. Yours was to lock me in a closet. His is to dress like a Ku Klux Klansman and then wear a very offensive symbol of someone's genocidal experience. Okay. And then also to then talk about the person that he himself selected to have children with. And then what I did connect to as pain, and maybe I didn't necessarily see it as pain, but when the story of the children came, when he was talking about the children, I saw that as anger, and I saw that as loss. I saw that as a lot of grief and loss, which probably, like you said, we saw a lot of continuing. But what I did not see, and what I believe is necessary, it's a necessary part of this human experience, is accountability. And I say that because we're living in an experience now where it's almost acceptable not to be accountable, right? Like, I can tell you a lie. I can go on TV. That's happening all around us. I turned on the news, which I'm taking little snippets because my mind can't handle it. But where they talked about the Signal, our current administration using the Signal app and blah, 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 blah. And the first thing that came out was like, well, it's not really a big deal. And you know what pissed me off about that is the lack of accountability. Because no matter what, the people who carried out that mission, they got people that love them. So even if they died, right, like the people that carried out that mission died, their mamas, their children, they deserve the dignity of our government being accountable enough to say that I made a mistake. And I have yet to see someone, just like I'm waiting on, I'm in my middle-aged experience waiting on you and my sister to apologize for putting me. I want the people to know my hands was behind my back. I was in a dark closet for hours until my mother came home and saved me. And I want you to know that I have not received an apology. Okay. So the system of accountability has not been met. The threshold of accountability has not been met. And that threshold of accountability is only met when the person can stand up who caused the harm and made the mistake and said, I made a mistake.
All right,
It's time for repair.
this right, that within accountability inside of two people being a part of it, right? Like, two individuals being part, because I think there's some sort of reconcilement that happens internally, and then there's an external reconcilement that occurs. You know what I mean? Okay. But I can full-heartedly say that if somebody told on me and I got punished for whatever consequence I got from their actions of telling or whatever, and I went to seek retribution on it, I'm not sorry for it, But I can acknowledge that, yeah, that probably did not feel good and all that stuff. And I could say, yes, I did that. Yes, I did that.
Okay. I accept that.
As much as that could be. But I would also say that isn't it not equally as painful that somebody you love and care about could subject you to some sort of pain and punishment by telling on you, by betraying you through this ways? Is that not equally as painful?
So I'm hearing you need a reciprocal apology.
No, I don't need it. I'm just saying, if we doing this dance of being accountable, you know what I mean? Because I feel like there's a certain amount of accountability comes from leading by example, by being like, you know what, I told on you, and you punished me for telling. So I understand why you did what you did. And I told you, and me thinking about it, I say, you know what? I apologize.
Okay.
And then the person say, what now for the pain that you gained from this? I'm sorry you had to experience that. And now we'll never have to go through that again because we align now, right? We reconcile in the line. But I was going to say, women probably never feel this. I think that a lot of men hit rock bottom in their life when women start playing with them with their children.
Yeah.
And I don't think women ever really experience the way this feels. And it probably is multiplied. It's the magnitude and intensity of this is amplified when you're a Black male in America, right? Where you've had to struggle to get to where you've gotten to. And even if you are an exceptional one, I don't care what level, it's still been a hard walk. You've had to earn this thing. It's definitely not been given to you any kind of a way.
Correct.
And for someone to be able, to that you put some affection and tenderness into, and yeah, you've created a life, and maybe it is that you chose wrong. You chose wrong in this. But certainly that person's been able to benefit from you a great deal in many different ways. But they would try to injure you, by doing anything to impede your relationship with your child, where he was saying, this is my family. Yeah. And someone saying that I don't have ownership of the likeness, her name and likeness. That you probably named, that you birthed, that this is your family.
Right.
I think that definitely makes you angry, and it hurts, and all of those things in it. But also in the fact that person trying to drain you of your resources, your hard-earned resources as well. And they try to defame you. That also hurts. So it's like, there is no mercy. Like, a woman showing a man no mercy when she's doing these things. That's why when we talked about before, it's like, okay, you don't want to be with me anymore for whatever reason. You don't want to be with me anymore. So we're not going to be together. Why though? All this extra stuff, keep me from my children. So basically it's a form of control. So you want to show me that I have no power in this way or whatever. But also, you want to keep me from my children, but I need to still pay you. I need to pay you for what? Because you also, so by those, let's put a woman into that situation, right?
Well, they have women. They have some women whose husbands then took them to, they got to pay.
And boy, those ones they can't get over it. Boy, them ones be like, that man ain't a man. God, you gonna take this up. They can't get it. But let's put a woman in the revert, because let's just say men most of the time ain't really trying to get money from a woman. You know what I mean?
Well,
But
there are definitely some outliers, but there's some outliers, and what I will again by example in modeling, I will say that I can certainly connect with that principle. And there's more to be said then about women and men, because I do think that they could be some scenarios where men have the control over children, and then they utilize their children in a way that controls the woman. And so there's something in the relational research called intimate partner violence and
oh yeah,
coercive control. And so
yeah,
I think that's going to be what you're describing is a type of intimate partner violence.
yes it
That
is.
coercive
Yes it
control.
is. Thank you for saying that. That's exactly what I'm describing. Because I was going to say on that same level, the intimate partner violence, right? What if this is an extreme example though, right? But I'm gonna just use it just so that women can connect to how it feels from a man's perspective. What if a man does something to break the relationship up with you guys? Let's just say just the fundamental thing: a man is out there being adulterous and he cheats on you and all this stuff, and he got a whole nother family, whatever. And you decide, I don't want to be with you anymore. And the man take you to court, and y'all both agree we don't want each other. But the man take you to court, and he end up getting, the judge says to him, you know what? Since she was your wife and you were accustomed to having a warm body lay beside you every single night, for the next 5 years, she owes you access to her thighs. When anytime you want that, for the next 5 years, she owes you that, right? And you had to do that, whether you're happy with that or not. That would make that is equivalent to the way a man would feel when a person playing around with his children and playing around with messing with his pocket. It's
Okay,
such an extreme.
give you that.
Yeah.
There's extreme provocation. I
Mhm.
think that goes beyond our show today, but I will concede. And again, by way of our modeling, because this is where also a good point of why we come together in our rose garden is, we use this time for those who are new listening to us, to just kind of support each other, give each other a safe space, reflect on the current events and things that are happening in our lives, and just to create this betterness for ourselves. And I've always done that with my brother, and now I just get to do it publicly. So I'm so appreciative for this time with you, brother, and that explanation is out. We putting a push pin on this discussion because you're bringing up a lot of really good nuggets. And I do think that there's a time we're going to need to talk about intimate partner violence and coercive control behavior patterns, financial
Yeah.
control, sexual abuse, all those things that happen within the marital and intimate partner relationships that can then be problematic. But I do want to close on at least this part of the segment before we close out and talk about accountability again. So we are talking about the fact that we listened to Kanye's what was that, an
Yeah.
interview?
Yeah.
Yeah, interview. And I learned a lot from taking on my brother's perspective, some of which was shared today. And I think there was an absence though of accountability from my purview. Not that I want to limit or minimize the range of emotions and experiences that were had, but I just want to make sure that folks know that being accountable for your decision making is a part of healing. So and that allows you to make different choices. And so I want you to take that away. I want you to take that away, not only from the experience from Kanye, but from the experience I shared with you, locking me into the closet where I was held for many hours as a child because I violated a code that I didn't even know was a code, that there was a code clearly that that I had violated. And lessons were certainly learned, brother. I can tell you that. Lessons were
I guess if there's a lesson that I want to impart is that it's just two parts of it. It's deeply listening and empathizing, right? So not just getting distracted by the symbolism of what people are doing, but like actually really listening and hearing what they're saying. That dude was being accountable in several ways. He had mentioned how he felt jealous of Kendrick
Mhm.
Lamar. He mentioned how he was hurt. He was like, I mean, this is the last heartbreak,
Yeah.
like the final heartbreak of being betrayed by friends, by lovers, by family, all of that stuff. So, but nobody cares, right? Because they're looking at Kanye as being privileged because of the success that he's achieved and because financially he's, has some means, but
Mhm.
nobody really actually, and even if it was so that he had some severe mental illness, which I mean, the dude is dealing with some extreme circumstances that can cause mental illness or whatnot.
Certainly
Nobody
causes
really cares about that.
emotional experience. I don't want people to think you could definitely have emotional reactions that can
Yeah,
feel like a mental health experience. I do think though we see with him real mental health stuff that which makes me sad because to the bigger point, having these interviews in the way that he's doing it is in and for people who may not care, and I think that more than anything else, I want him to find people that care about him and that nourish him and that want to be committed to his healing. I thought that about Mike Tyson for many, many years, where, people were exploitative around him and you could see. And even when he wasn't ready to be places, he was always paraded around and asked to talk. And that's kind of the analogy I would bring with Kanye. He's not ready yet. He's deep in these emotional experiences and healing can occur. But that has to happen and doesn't. I don't think the people that are around him now and that are benefiting from any conversation. Because one of the things that when you sent me that video, I was almost floored at the number of watches in such a short amount of time.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, wow, people really rush to watch people go through these experiences. Even all that we all believe we know about these celebrities who we are just we're adjunctly associated with anyway. So I thank you for spending this time in the Rose Garden. And one thing Grandma would say about this is that we're showing each other our own way of empathy and love and supporting each other, which is very much like how Grandma Rose would do for us. And so she's very proud of her breadcrumbs, I think, by the fact that we do this. I found a Grandma's program, so it has taken me down some memory lane, which I'm hoping I get to share with you and send to you. But one of the memories I have is of us riding bikes.
Oh God.
And for those that don't know that story, I was the last to learn to ride the bike, and the way my grandmother taught us how to ride, or taught me, because I didn't have the natural bike riding balance and skills, was running after me with a switch. and it,
Then you.
and I learned very rapidly. I was certainly accelerated my learning then. But in the picture, you see us all on our bikes. Grandma is standing next to us, and we all have big, big smiles on our faces. So, regardless of the method, one of the things that I said was that her methods may have been harsh at times, but the skill that she wanted, she really believed that being able to be independent, ride bikes, run, skip, hop,
Mhm.
jump, all those things were life skills. And so that was what she imparted, and that's what I think again is a message for today, like learning how to apologize, being accountable. Those are all life skills too. And so I'm so thankful for that I get to be one of her breadcrumbs, and I'm so thankful for her lessons. um, do you remember that time, brother, we was on the bikes?
Yeah, I'll never forget it. It's definitely
Another imprint.
no, it definitely was something to observe for sure. And I agree with you. I think definitely the fact that this is what we're doing is really an honor of of the spirit of who she is. I think I'm sure she would be proud, and
Yes.
I hope every day that I know there's many times that there was some things phases in my life where I didn't make her proud.
Hmm.
So I feel like right now in my uh, current iteration that definitely I think she would be proud of the man I am now. But I'm grateful too. This is definitely very cathartic for me as well. I was going to just end it with saying that for me, what Kanye is expressing is his aggravation and frustration, and it's almost like saying, just pretty much help me by leaving me alone if you're trying to exploit me. You know, stay away from me if you're trying to exploit me, but also understand where I'm coming from. You know,
Mhm.
and I feel like, just somebody understand. You know how sometimes just being able to talk to somebody about what you're going through and feeling like they heard you and that they understand you, and they validate that you're not crazy, because that was another thing where he's like, man, they threatened to put me in the hospital. Like, that's a threat, I honestly don't think that, because to me, what LeBron James is doing in reaction to Stephen A. or whatever is the same thing that Kanye is doing, but nobody looking at LeBron like that's mental illness. You know,
Mm,
it's just that Kanye is an artist in his
right.
in his artistry, just like Mike Tyson. Mike
Yeah.
Tyson is a beast. He's a pugilistic fighter. That's his essence, his spirit. But then when people antagonize, it's just like a tiger. I saw that there was a tiger in the zoo, and these kids was antagonizing the tiger.
Hmm.
They know that tiger could leap over. They ain't know he could leap over the water and the gate that was encapsulated. They ain't know he could do that. But they should have known, because the tiger's a straight up beast, right? And when he kept antagonizing the tiger did what tigers do.
Right.
So that's what Mike Tyson be doing. He does what a fighter does. But if you don't want that smoke, why poke the fighter?
Right.
So
Right.
at the end of the day, these people are bringing out the true character, but I don't think it's mental illness. It's like when you're looking at Mike Tyson and stuff he's going through, it's extreme circumstances.
Mhm.
Like when I start thinking about things that hopefully we'll never experience. But
Right.
like losing a child.
Right.
I mean, does somebody ever really heal from that?
Right.
You know, but but then you like you say, you want them to look like they done got over this and they done moved on in their life and all this stuff. It's certain things you'll never get over. And when you're a competitive champion, you're a champion, you got champion spirit,
Right.
you're a warrior,
Right.
you never get over a loss.
Right. But
So if
that
somebody knocks you out, you will never get over that. You'll always, you'll always want to get that back. And
right.
that's part of the spirit of what makes you a champion.
Right.
So these things, they not mental. I
Well,
don't think.
and I'm not calling that mental illness. So I
Mhm.
just want to be clear. So I'm not calling that mental illness, and I'm agreeing with you that those having those, being a part of those traumas and experiencing those traumas are real, and what we are seeing is the emotional reflection of that. So I'm not minimizing that, and to that I will agree. We got to wrap up, brother. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to, give good praise to,
Yeah,
that has been
listen.
supporting you?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, first of all, I mean, I got to give high praise to someone that's not part of our melanated community, though. But this is a lady that has a super impact in my life, from a business standpoint, and she just happens to be, what people would. Because again, we going back to the previous show where we were saying that race is made up, but I'm gonna say that she's if people are gonna put a label on her, she's a white woman, white American woman, but she believed heavily in my business. She still supports me and stands behind it. She's one of my top clients and partners. Her name is Jane Charlton. She's an associate director of AT&T. I give her the highest praise for many different reasons. Number one reason is how sincere she is and how passionate she is in her career, how she's earned her right in the side of the industry where it's dominated by males, how she stands out in that way, how she still maintains, a relationship with her family where she's the mother and the loving wife inside of that, and how she goes out in the community and counsels the community on how to be, you know, a loving wife, mother, and a career woman all at once. So I salute her, for
Thank you for
all
bringing her
her
up. I salute
achievements
her
and
too.
accomplishments and stuff.
Yeah.
And what she does for us, you know, as a business, like she's opened many doors. And I would say that, you know, she didn't have to do that. You know, and
Coming, keep it coming. In this environment, we need our community. So I'm so thankful that Jane is in your community, and we are inviting others to come and join our community. This is a time again for us to honor not only our grandmother, but to support ourselves as a part of her breadcrumbs. And we hope by supporting ourselves, we are supporting you. We want to see you here each week at 2 p.m. live on YouTube. Thank you all for joining us. If you want to see us again, make sure you like, follow, subscribe at Rose's Breadcrumbs on YouTube, and we'll see you next week.
all right, see you next week. Much love to your sister.
Much love. Oh yeah, just stop. Much love to you, brother. It was a good one. It was a good one today. Look, we always get good.
Yeah.
We always get good, don't we?
And then, you know, people always be hitting me up and then want to comment on shit, right? It's funny because I was like, yo, why don't y'all comment on the in the section? But people were like, yo, sometimes, yo, you be on this shit and I hear you and I'm screaming at the joint, right? Like actually a rack of people had called me and said that, but one of them was our cousin Jason. He was like, yo, I was hearing you and Serena talking, you know, I was screaming at the shit, saying this and this and that. But I was just thinking that you know, so many other people have reached out to me that just, you know, outlier motherfuckers, and they were like, yo, sometimes you know, what y'all talking